The South African police force is in crisis, and the last 2 weeks have laid it bare. In a country already grappling with one of the highest violent crime rates in the world, explosive accusations have thrust the force's leadership into the spotlight. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu and senior officials stand accused of shielding politically connected crime syndicates. Mkhwanazi is now on special leave, and President Cyril Ramaphosa has ordered a year-long judicial inquiry. Well, joining us in the studio is Dr. Lennit Max, a former Western Cape Police Commissioner, politician and advocate. Hi, Lennit, so nice for you to join us.
Good afternoon, Linda.
So, what is your take on the events of the last 2 weeks and the revelations that have been made?
Yeah, Linda, as you correctly said, I'm a former police commissioner of the Western Cape. Now, during my tenure in the police, it was unbecoming of us as provincial commissioners to have press statements of this nature, which the provincial commissioner, General Mkhwanazi of KwaZulu-Natal, at a press conference on the 6th of July, 2025, and where he actually accused the minister of, according him, in close relationship with so-called people with questionable characters. And the minister ordered the closing of the political task team investigating political killings in KwaZulu-Natal. So, and he actually informed South Africa about his communication which he received from various people which implicate the minister with that particular relationship. And according to him, that closing of the political killings task team was in the interest of those questionable characters.
Yeah, so what do you make of that? It's very unusual, as you say, for a police commissioner to speak out.
Yes, first of all, that the allegations which he actually made is very, very serious. And it prompted a high-level intervention. It is clear that there is a breakdown in confidence and a relationship between the National Commissioner and the Minister of Police, Minister Mkhwanazi, and that needs to be properly investigated to see whether there's any substance to the allegations made by Commissioner of General Mkhwanazi, the Commissioner of the KwaZulu-Natal province. Mkhwanazi, in a statement which he actually provided for a upcoming court case this week, instituted by the MK party to take on the decision of the president. He actually provided in support of the president a statement in which he says, allegedly, that he did not close that political killing task team unilaterally. He had a discussion with the National Commissioner, and the National Commissioner, Fani Masimola, did not indicate that he was unhappy and that it is not possible for him as minister to order the closing of that particular task team. And on the other hand, you have the National Commissioner, Fani Masimola, who actually support the KwaZulu-Natal provincial commissioner, General Mkhwanazi. So it is clear that the National Commissioner sided him with the Provincial Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal against the Minister of Police in South Africa. And that is serious, and it needs to be resolved ASAP.
So do you think a year-long investigation, and it can take longer because a lot of these commissions of inquiry lead to absolutely nothing, do you think they could get to the bottom of this?
Yes, let me say, our experience in South Africa with regards to commissioners of inquiry is that those recommendations made by these commissions are not implemented. And for that particular reason is that the people in South Africa doesn't have confidence in any commissions. But I think in this case that given the seriousness of this particular matter, the president deemed it necessary and appropriate to institute a commission with uh, Judicial Commission of Inquiry with a judge who's going to retire now the end of this month, July, and two senior counsel advocates to investigate it. But I think also that they will have a team who will conduct the investigations and ensure that the administration of that commission is running smoothly. Yeah, and I think the instruction is also that there must be a preliminary report within 3 months to the president with recommendations, and the commission got also the powers to simultaneously, as the commission continues, to request criminal investigations which they deem necessary. But I think the reason why the president did what he did was that once he got some prima facie evidence which substantiate the allegations, then he would be in a better position to act against the minister or not. If it is false, the minister is not implicated, then he knows exactly what to do. And if they are substance, then obviously the president need to do the necessary within his powers and as mandated by the Constitution of South Africa.
The percentage of crime that is actually solved and prosecuted is so low. So, what do you think this does to the confidence of South Africans in the South African police force?
Yes, you're quite correct. That I read this morning about an article which indicates that the 97% of the crimes of Africa is not solved, and that is very high. And that caused the actions of the community that they've got little, and sometimes no um, respect for law enforcement, as well as no confidence in the criminal justice system. And that is a problem. In 2021, the trust in the police was at an all-time low of 27%. But the latest finding of the Human Science Research Council in 2024 indicates that it is now at a level of 22,000. So it is very, very low. And all this, which is happening and what we are talking about, contributes, to that particular opinion of the people that the police are not effective and the police are not serving them in terms of their mandate.
But how do we rebuild the South African police force with all these allegations? Should a lot of people be fired? Should the top leaders be fired? What is your solution?
With the advent of democracy, the government saw the then police force. We are now as a police service, the then police force, as an enemy because they use, violence against those who oppose the apartheid regime. And there was a transformation, but that transformation was uh, to replace whites commanders with black commanders, because the impression was, of the idea was, that the black commanders will have more sympathy and empathy for people who's not white, on which the previous government actually, is excessive force and and maintaining the regime, and and that was proven not the fact that the transformation based on race did not deliver the expected results. What we need to do, we cannot, you know, uh, do the same thing now and to replace uh, the blacks with whites. What we need to do is we have to focus on merit. There's a lot of questionable appointments within the police service where people who had been taken from the street without any police experience into very senior positions in the police. For example, that the president, Thabo Mbeki, at the time, when he was the president, he, after George Pivas, who was the last, uh, after 1994, a uniform police commissioner who had received training and was in the police for some time. The president Mbeki appointed Jackie Zelebe, who was a MK cadre, as the police commissioner. And he was with Home Affairs, I believe, or International Affairs, DG, Director General. He did not have a day's training in the police, and he became the national commissioner, and he imposed his own ideas on police officers and changed the structure of the police. And that is one of the reasons why we are sitting with the problems what we are facing now. Secondly, after Jackie Zelebe, when he was then arrested and convicted for corruption, they appointed Becky Kelly, a politician, who also did not have a day's training in the police. And after he was removed because of some corrupt activity allegations against him, they appointed Ria Pieja. And then she was a social worker as the National Commissioner of Police. Also, she did not have any police experience. So, and she was also removed because of certain actions and decisions taken during the Marikana um, situation, where 33 people were killed as a result of her instructions and intervention. So, as a result, we are sitting now with a police service who's not appointed. Many of the managers not appointed because of their skill and based on merit. They are simply there because they are connected to particular individuals. And the other thing is that the police regulations provides sections 47 of the police regulations provides that when the national commissioner appoint or full positions from major general, lieutenant general, then he must first get permission from the minister of police. In other words, even he can't even appoint that person without the consent of the minister of police. In other words, you cannot. My take on it is, you cannot keep the national commissioner responsible to do his job or her job if you decide, a politician decide what is good for you and who should actually work with you. So those things needs to be rectified. Politics needs the police need to be sanitized from politics, um, and people need to be appointed on merit. And apartheid had a lot of um, wrongdoings. But there's one thing in apartheid, because I joined in the times of apartheid. The apartheid system, the police at that time, we were compelled. We were compelled to write examinations before promotion. And you were actually compelled to attend courses and complete it successfully before you were appointed into ranks, in senior ranks. But after 1994, they scrapped all of that, and now people are get promotion just on years experience and service in the police, and not in terms of examinations. And what happens now is the students get about 30% at the college to pass. and then they leave the college without any other information, and then they grew into the ranks, and they were not exposed to any other examinations or tests to actually to extend the framework of reference. So what we need is we must bring back a compulsory examination so that people, seniors, can actually give guidance and direction in terms of the law for towards their subordinates. That is the one thing. The other thing is that the national commissioner and the deputies, the appointment process needs to be done either by parliament. Nowadays, we sit with a government of national unity. There is not an overwhelming party in one committee. So the checks and balances are in place, and rather allow Parliament to do the interviews and make the recommendations. Alternatively, that the independent panel, as indicated by the National Development Plan 2030, that a panel should interview the national commissioners, candidates, as well as deputies, and make recommendations to the president. Then you will have a much better quality uh, of, 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 of people which will forward to serve and give guidance to the police officers in the service, and to ensure that the South African people get a better and a more professional police service.
So, if I understand correctly what you're saying, you said take the politics out of it. The political class shouldn't appoint the leadership of the police, and then it would filter down to the lower levels as well.
It's correct. You know what we have in the police is in our constitution, actually, section 206(1) and 207(2) indicates that the minister got the powers of policy, must create policy, and he must consult with the MECs of with the 9 provinces to determine policy. 207 of the Constitution 1 says that the president of the country can appoint a man or a woman as the National Commissioner of Police, and that to take charge of operations and to manage the internal affairs of the police. However, 2072 indicates that the National Commissioner should execute its duties by direction of the minister. Now, that doesn't mean the minister manages the police. The direction means in terms of the policy which is being created and approved by cabinet, not a policy which the minister on his own or her own decide. A policy means it's a policy properly drafted and discussed and debated in cabinet and approved by cabinet. That is the policy. Yeah, and the separation of power is very important, and it's important that each one stay in their lanes.
Would that bring the crime rate down, or the prosecution, increase the prosecution rate? Would it make any difference to our crime figures?
It will. Let me say that there's a lot of things wrong in the police, like crime intelligence. They arrested about 6 top officials the other day, a lieutenant general and about 4 or 5 major generals and a brigadier. So crime intelligence is actually your one leg which actually sensitize you where to focus, to have a focused operation. Now, if your crime intelligence is dysfunctional, then you don't have any focus operations. Then you will be only reactively all the time. And the police success is not merely measured in terms of the amount of arrests. Police success are firstly measured about the absence of crime. So the absence of crime will tell you how effective police is. The police is. So I think that if there's a proper focus and a proper reorganization of the and transformation of the police in terms of quality, merit, people with self-respect, and well educated, we cannot also continue with the entry level of matric. There are thousands of scholars, students who finish at universities each year. And my thesis on my doctorate indicates the research that people are more, the higher the qualification, they are less inclined to commit crime and to, aware criminal type of behavior. Less, not to say totally 100% they are not going to commit transgressions, but they are less inclined to do so. But I think if there's a proper focus, a proper realignment of the police, that we will be more proactive than reactive. In order to prevent crime to be committed and to have victims of crime.
So if you look at specifically, let's look at the region that you used to, you're the Commissioner of Police of the Western Cape. The Western Cape has particular issues with gang violence. So with the deep, if you can take politics out of the police force, would it also help in areas like that? Or is the problem with the Cape gang culture and what's happening there, does that not relate to the politicization of the police?
Let me say, gangsterism in South Africa, in particular in the Western Cape, is a long-standing problem. When I joined the police in 1980, my first week in the police, I was chased the evening on my way home by gangsters. And by that time, the gangsters got knives and pangas and not firearms like what they got now. But nevertheless, the problem in the Western Cape, the gangsterism is grounded actually as a result of poverty, unemployment. And the gangsters move in those less affluent areas, and they create a second economy, and they provide to the families of these young boys and pay the rent and provide money for electricity, and they make those people totally dependent on them. And as a result, these youngsters see them also as role models, because they wear the brand names clothes, and the brand techies and gold watches, gold chains, and in that communities, that is an achievement. Not so much education, but the appearance of those gangsters. And as a result, sometimes they are forced into gangsterism. But the problem is, jail sentence. When people are being arrested for murders, jail sentence is not a deterrent, doesn't serve as a deterrent to gangsters. The more serious your crime, the more respect you gain within your gangster community. So, and you will see there's also a regular searches at the correctional services, where they actually seize even televisions in the cells, cell phones, and drugs as well, and sharp items. Now, those things is only possible to enter the correctional services because of corruption by correctional officials, service officials, because there's no other way that that stuff can go in there. I mean, a TV, you can't hide the TV; it's carried in there, and it's been allowed by these correctional service officers. So corruption and police officer who is in cahoots with the gangs is a problem, as well as correctional service officers is also in cahoots, and that is a problem in the fight against gangsterism. But gangsterism, policing alone to fight gangsterism is not going to succeed. Uh, the social economic conditions needs to be addressed as well. If you approach these youngsters and say gangsterism is not the future, you must provide them with an alternative. You understand? And there's currently no alternative. And as a result, gangsterism continues unabated.
And what about the Scorpions? Do you think it was a mistake closing that down? I see Judge Zondo said that last week as well.
You know, in retrospect, I must say the Scorpions they were the most effective investigating unit in the police. But they were not only police; they worked in close proximity with the National Prosecuting Authority as a team. And Jacob Zuma, the then president, when he came into power, he decided in his wisdom that no. This thing needs to be closed and needs to be replaced. Because it was clear he had already his plans in place what to do, and these people, they arrest politicians irrespective of your position in society. If you committed a crime, they arrest you. And it's difficult. It was broken down now, and they created the Hawks. But the Hawks, as Judge Zondo also says, he did not believe the Hawks was effective or still effective enough, similar to what the Scorpions were. The Scorpions, in my view, I concur with Judge Zondo, was the most effective investigating unit. And if they were in place, we would not have this type of corruption in government as well as in the police and other government organizations.
So, should we bring back the Scorpions?
I agree. I totally say there's no hesitation. If we can put that concept together again, the Scorpions, and you can recruit the same caliber of people who were actually with the Scorpions at the time, then and yeah, and you totally sanitize the Scorpions as well as the police of political meddling and political interference, then obviously we will go in the right direction. But politics is very funny. That if I know that they might come to me, I'm not going to implement them. I will I will rather um, create a unit which I can control. You know, but if I can if I'm sure that they can arrest me as well, then I won't. But yeah, but the Scorpions, I think if they can come back, we will have a much better unit to investigate. And the let me say, the Hawks. The problem with the Hawks is that the Hawks is not totally independent. It falls under the police, and it works with the police budget. You understand? So it is not similar, and it cannot be effective because they can be managed from outside. Whereas the Scorpions was totally shielded against political interference.
Well, Dr. Lennit Max, thank you so much.
You're welcome.